Oh, hello again, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for visiting once again. And after the completion of the Star Wars Atster, I've moved on to something else, and I've put the Corsair away for a while, and I'm going to do something fairly simple and straightforward. Uh, in parts, this will be complex in some ways, but I'm going to go off to take a look at the old Gloster Gladiator, which you may have seen my kit review of back along some time ago. I'm going to build a Gladiator Mark II, so that's the one with the three-bladed propeller, which is a fairy aluminium propeller, fixed pitch, instead of the two-bladed, which was the Gladiator Mark One. And so I've decided to do this, and I've used the ICM kit, which I think some wise fellow told me was also a Revell kit, and you people who are in the know about this sort of thing will be able to put that in the comments. But there we are. So I've made a start on it, and very stupidly, really, I sort of got into it and started gluing things in and thought, oh, hang on a minute, I ought to film some of this, didn't I? But so what I've done is I've put in all of the cockpit side components and so on. It's not particularly detailed inside, to be honest with you, and you could, if you wanted to, add quite a lot of additional detail with cables and wires and goodness only knows what all ganglion, which I'm not going to do this time. But what I have done is done a little bit of staining. So this has been painted cockpit interior green, as you can see. You do have to look out for this little tweaker here because it's very easy to knock. So what I did was use a piece of tape to try and keep that from breaking, and hopefully I don't break it like these things here. And good old Tron McConnell says put a bit of tape over the top of this. I think that's a pretty good idea. So yeah, as I say, it's this is quite simple and straightforward to do. As you can see, I've done the other side as well and just put in what's there basically in the kit, and then put together the rest of the cockpit components. And again, as I say, a bit of stain. There is a slight shine on this. I don't quite know why that is. I gave the matte varnish a pretty good shake, to be honest with you, but I suspect some of the matting agent still stayed at the bottom, but it's going to be inside the cockpit itself, so it won't show that much, to be honest with you. So it's then a question of just basically preparing these surfaces so that I'm going to take some of this paint off here. As you can see, there's some sort of black paint on there, and that's primer there, just so that this joint makes properly, and it'll make preparing the the joint for to get the seam out, as it were, much simpler. So we'll have at that for a second. The other thing to recall on this one is that the instructions call out for putting the light bulbs in these two lamps here, so that's quite important to do. I masked them off so there's not sort of too much paint on this here. We just have to put a blob of the old what is it, masking fluid on there. I think that'll sort it out, won't it? So we'll just pull them off, and what we'll do is then we'll put these two cockpit halves together because we're pretty much there then. What I have done here is this section has been glued in already, and I'll just use a bit of Tamiya white cap cement in that area there, and I'll do the same thing on the other side of this as well. But apart from that, we're sort of pretty much ready to go, and I think I probably won't glue this in because it's not really all that necessary. As you can see, this sort of stands up on its own because it's got paint on it. That's what tends to be the case. But anyway, look, interesting thing about this, the rudder has a wheel on it, as you can see there. That's the rudder trim wheel, which is quite unique. I've not seen that before on an aircraft, but that's a nice little thing to look at. So what we'll do is just plonk them up there. That's not quite vertical, so we'll have to do some jiggering once we get that in. Let's just draw this out a tiny bit so that you can see that. And then what we can then do, we'll just draw that back in a minute and see if we can just shed a little bit of light on this so that you can see what's going on. As you can see with my little poker here, these two little spigots here and here are just slightly out of kilter, so what we need to do is to just bring those into place. And because this is live, as you can see, the test is is good. Because this is live, of course, what I haven't done is put in the instrument panel, and that's that there. So there's the instrument panel there. So that's not very useful. I wonder if we might be able to just slip that in, as it were, Mrs. No, probably not. I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to start again then in that case. So what we'll do is we'll fetch that out and do it right this time. So that sits in front of that little ridge there, as you can see, and up straight to it. So we'll introduce that back in again. You're all laughing at me in modelling land there, aren't you? And quite right too. Oh, stupid zinners here, forgetting to put the bloody instrument panel in. Honestly, what an idiot, eh? Ha ha ha, you're all saying. And I can't blame you. Quite right for you too, as I said. But fortunately we didn't actually get any glue on anything, so as you can see that's not quite in yet. So what we'll do there is just see if we can gently poke that down with a... Oh, that's not quite gone in. You can see that's a bit... That looks like it's a bit out of kilter actually. It does appear to be. Yes, it's slightly out of kilter. I'll just turn that round and see if we can... I can see what's happened. So what we need to do is just open that up and let it all drop out again. So this isn't going to be as easy as I suspected. I test fit this a number of times and thought, yeah, that should be dead simple. So what we'll do is drop that in there. I'll tell you what we might do actually is this standard Tamiya cement, just let's put a dab of that in there because it will go tacky and it will hold this in where it's supposed to be. And I can drop this in and hopefully then it all goes very much according to Hoyle, as it were. So I had that off camera then because that was I'm fairly well zoomed in, so just introduce those two sections there. Make sure that our there they are. So they need to be just moved up a tad and into their respective locating holes, and that's that sorted. And then there we go. So that's then gone in. So I can tell you one thing, that's much simpler than the Spitfire, the 148 Spitfire I did, which, as you may recall if you watched that video, it was some year, maybe a year and a bit ago now. Took a long time, as it were, because the two cockpit sides were... Oh, that's in the wrong place. Oh no, that's in the right place. It's the other bit that's in the wrong place. See, what's happened here is this side, as I'm pointing to it, has slipped to the wrong side of the little fillet that it's supposed to sit onto. Ah, curses. Curse it. It's all fallen out. That's not good. There was my thinking on gluing that in has failed. Right, try it one more time, shall we? So get that into its correct position. So that's butted up to that fillet there. This is where the instrument panel needs to butt up. So what we might do is I'll put this in this way round and get that sighted correctly, because we can see that, and I can get a digit in here to get it properly fixed in. Where's that? Ah yes, it needs to go further back. Oh, I see what's happened. So that's still just a bit out of kilter there. Still needs to go a little bit further. There we go. I think we're there now. Let's get my little torch wherever it is. There it is. I can just shine that in there, and then what we hopefully can see is that the upper instrument panel, which is what's causing the trouble here, is located correctly ahead of its positioning spigots. I wonder if we can zoom in and show you this. So what we're trying to do is to get the instrument panel positioned onto its positioning spigots, its little rails here. And there's another one. There you go. There's another one there. Can you see that there? Okay, so we can just about see that, hopefully. And they're now placed properly. So let's turn my little torch off. A very useful little piece of kit, that. And the next challenge will be to actually fit the seat in without moving everything else out of the way. Now hopefully that won't be too difficult. I'm going to try. No, that's not going to work very well. Let's get a pointed tweezers. Right, some round tweezers. So some round-headed tweezers here. So I can then hopefully just drop that in, because the locating holes are dead easy to see. And there we go. Is that in the right place? Yes, that appears to be in the right place. That appears to be in the right place. Is that all central that way? That appears to be okay. Let's move this light, because my battery powered light has failed a little bit. The light is failing. So we can now see a little bit more of this. I'm going to zero out just a little bit and just move the camera up a tad so that we can see a little bit more of this. Because otherwise it's all a bit difficult. So now hopefully what we can see is the control panel is in the correct place. Fore and aft and left and right, port and starboard, etc, etc. And everything else looks good. So what we can then do is we can start to think about adhering this all together with my rather old and gash brush. So we'll hold this together and then we'll tape it a tad after it's started to dry. And it's dry to the touch, which it is now. So a little bit of tape. Get that tape shut there. I'll do the same on the top. That's quite wide, that gap there. It's gonna need some filling, that, I suspect, because you can actually see the light through it. You definitely can. Didn't notice that before, but hopefully we should be alright. Actually, what we'll do with that is we'll use this. And I'll use not that brush, but this brush, which I just need to soften up a bit because it's, there we go, and I can then get some of this glue on it, and I can then introduce this glue into here like that, and that will harden away there. I didn't really want to do that. That wasn't the most careful thing to do. Put that out of the way, and then I can use a piece of tape, which is unfortunately folded over, and just hold that up together there. Now that side there, I can just glue up with a bit of extra thin. And we'll do that. I really must change this because this brush has seen better days, and this glue pot is almost empty, but I'm eking it out like all self-respecting people do, eh? You make it last, look after the pennies and all that. So let that dry for a second, and I can just bring some tape onto that. So we're beginning to get there. That'll be my next target there. So I'll get just a strip or two of tape, and we can start to go at that. I'm going to try and make this I'm going to make my seam filling as easy as I can for myself. In other words, to minimise it as much as I can. There we go, that's that bit done. And see where we go with it. I know you've seen me do an awful lot of this sort of stuff before, but it's a new model, so it's a different one, and overcoming the challenges just requires a little bit of patience, as you can see, particularly with this thing here. I'm not going to bother gluing that in, just no point. It'll stay there without moving at all. It's very firmly and steadily in there, so it shouldn't be an issue. But what I will do is introduce a bit of white cap with my long brush there at some stage. Okay, so what we can now do is introduce that, and then that will hold that whole joint there. Then we can look to do the top, and this is where we do have to be a bit careful, of course, because we have this these two lamps here. These are navigation lights, or anti-collision lights, or navigation lights actually is what they are, isn't it? So we'll, oh, there's rather a lot of glue on that. I'm going to have to be careful and let that dry for a second before I start going at that again. So we're going to have to dwell a short pause, ladies and gentlemen. I've got glue on my digit now, that's not good. So I haven't been doing so much modelling these days, and that's mainly because it's the summertime, and during the summer I play a game called cricket, which all of you people out there I've no doubt understand and know, even if you know it to be, shall we say, less interesting than football. But there we are. I'm a cricketer and I think differently about it, but something I've done for very many years, and I always have thoroughly enjoyed it, and so that's what I do quite a lot during the summer, and so I shall come back firmly to the modelling desk in the autumn time, but I will be here from time to time. Oh god, I've done that wrong. I'm going to have to get rid of that. That's no good at all. It's not helpful. As I say, you'll see me here from time to time. I shall try and do the odd live now and again as well, because I know that you enjoy that, and I haven't done very many in the recent past, and there was a demand for my particular brand of let's call it idiocy, shall we? But there we are. So hopefully you'll come along to one or two of them. You know, when the sun is high, and on a Sunday perhaps when I'm not playing cricket and so on. And I shall enjoy having you along, just as I enjoy thinking about you guys looking at this when I'm when I've put these things out. I'm hopeful that you will enjoy this. I quite like the idea of the Gladiator. I've never made a biplane before, and I think that okay, that's okay. I can tape that now. And I very much like the fact that obviously this is a wooden framework over which material is stretched, and you can see this through the moulding as well, and they've captured that, I think, rather nicely. It's a nice little kit. I was drawn to it, and it's a nice simple little build by the look of it, without too much in the way of challenge or difficulty, and I just wanted something to be easy and quick and simple, you know, and not an issue to build, and not with lots of complicated arrangements and so on. Just pull a bit of tape off there a minute, because I've got a narrow section to tape up there. We'll just dwell a pause a minute, 2 marching paces, etc, etc. That's still slightly wet. We have to wait a little while for this particular glue to dry, as you all know. Welcome to you, by the way, if you're new to this, and you're looking at Zinners and thinking, what the devil's this guy going on about? You know, I hope you find this entertaining in some manner, and maybe you'll come and visit again. I try to be innovative where I can, but obviously in a, let's call it a crowded marketplace, it's hard to innovate completely, but maybe I add a different spin to what is done, and hopefully you enjoy that, and it'll be my pleasure to see you again if this is your first time, and it's my pleasure to see you back if this is not your first time. Thank you very much. Very nice to see you and all that. So let's get to this bit, shall we? I have to be careful here that glue doesn't leak down the sides of the vertical stabilizer here and go underneath my fingers, because otherwise you end up with unpleasant glue marks on a surface that you don't want it on. So we'll just hold that together for a minute. Again, as I said earlier, these little tweakers that poke up here, which were for aerials and such like, it's very easy to break them off. So when this is done and the rudder is put in, I'll put a piece of tape over the top of this, or a bit of cardboard or something, just to prevent the problem from occurring. With any luck, that should be fine. So we'll just take that over there, just to hold that shut. Yeah, I need to just give that a bit of a dab. There we go. Hold that there for a second, and then we're there's a bit of a glue spot there. That's a bit of clean-up I need to do. There we go. It happens, I'm afraid. does happen. So, not particularly large actually, this aircraft. 1938 aircraft this. It's the last RAF biplane fighter, and the first fighter, a biplane fighter with a sealed cockpit, a fully enclosed cockpit. No, very nice looking little aircraft, this one, I have to say. Greatly taken by the look of it. So that's the fuselage sealed up without a few problems there. There'll be some cleanup to be done on here, I suspect, and we'll leave that overnight before we go any further. But the next time round I'll have put the rudders and the elevators on and so on. And I will do a video about the upper and lower wing sections, because I've got some ideas on how to get them together. So let's do some good housekeeping to start with, and then we'll round off this this particular video. So we'll get those things up out of the way there, look, and put that away over there. I did start to build the engine as well, it's just a 9-cylinder engine here. Powered the aircraft along at around 250 miles an hour, which was pretty quick for a biplane fighter in those days. There is an opportunity, by the way, if you want to add some detail into these things. These here are the spark plug entries, 2 for each cylinder. So you could put spark plug wires in, and because the engine is presenting that way, you can... There we go. Is it going to focus? There we go. The engine presents this way forwards, and the sparking plug electric cables go in behind the cylinders, sort of down in behind here. So they won't be noticed. So you can use some lead wire. The Anise right-angled spark plug whatnots, which sort of go at right angles like that, I suspect would be quite good for this. So you could add that little bit of detail in. I probably will do that, but I'm not going to spend an awful lot of time, making a huge fuss about that. And actually, if you want to add some other detail on this, these little vein-like sections here had caps over the top of them as well on the later engines. So there was a section that zero in on this again for you. So there was a section over the top of this that extended from the front portion here, opened out over the top of the engines past these. I suspect these are, would these be push rods? I suspect these are push rod ends or something like that. Engine experts would have to be able to tell me, and then extended across back here to the back of that. So you could add that detail in as well if you wished, and that's we'll see what we'll do about that. But I'm going to do a couple more videos on this particular aircraft. As I say, I'll do the upper and lower wings for you, because I think that could be quite interesting. Probably do something on the rigging as well, and I mean the sort of thing that you can use for rigging would be, put it in here, this stuff here, this braided cable. It's quite thin. In fact, very thin. You can see it there. Zero in on it again. You can see how thin that is. But it's a braided cable, so it's not completely smooth. And I think that would be ideal for making rigging cables. So I'll probably use that. And obviously, it would take some paint as well. So there's a few plans for that. And we'll see how we go with the Gloster Gladiator. There we are. So that's cockpit and fuselage, all very simple and straightforward, no real issues there, no dramas. I should be doing a little bit of additional gluing on this off camera, but next time we see it I'll have done some cleanup on it and probably put the tail planes on and so on, so it'll look a bit more like an aeroplane than it does now. So there we go. Anyway, look, thanks very much for visiting, everybody. Lovely to see you again, and I shall try to do some as regular as I can videos in between my cricketing commitments. So thanks very much indeed. Thanks for visiting once again, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.